We're here with Ferrum head coach Bryan Harvey. Coach, obviously tough one out there. Can you give us some reflections and thoughts on the game today?
Huntingdon played well. They hit some shots early. I think our kids probably got a little frustrated early when we got behind, and then I think in the second half, just they were physically tough. They got the ball where they wanted to get the ball, and they finished around the basket. And it didn't seem like we could get stops when we needed to get stops. Had a lot of good looks, and they didn't fall. And I think when our shots did start falling, we had to kind of, because of the deficit, I think we had to change what we were doing defensively. Had to extend a little bit, and just didn't feel like we got enough stops when we needed to get stops when we did finally start making some shots down the stretch. And when you're playing at this level, you gotta be playing your best. And clearly, we weren't playing our best out there tonight. And a lot of that has to do with how Huntingdon defended us and played. And for whatever reason, it doesn't always go your way. And tonight was one of those days it didn't go our way. That's for sure.
You mentioned, the shots weren't falling. It seemed like, especially from long range, shots just weren't dropping for you guys at times. How much of that is just part of your game on a normal basis, and how much does that hurt you when those shots don't fall?
We shot the ball pretty well all year, and I think that affects how when shots aren't falling, I think that affects you emotionally. And we talk all the time about you can't let that affect how you play on the other end of the floor, but it's human nature. When shots aren't going in, you drop your head a little bit and maybe don't work as hard as you need to on the other end of the floor, and it needs to be the exact opposite. When shots aren't falling, you got to play a little bit harder on the defensive end to make up for it, and we just weren't able to do that. I think Buzz's kids are excited to be here right now and playing with a lot of energy. I think they really buy into what he's asking them to do right now. Great team chemistry, and all the credit goes to them.
24 wins this season. Obviously it didn't end the way you wanted to, but a great season for your team. Do you have some reflections on your year and how things went?
It was a great year. We were playing really good basketball at the beginning of the year. For whatever reason down the stretch, just didn't play as well. I wish I could have put a finger on it and figured out what it was, but we just weren't playing as well at the end of the year. But that doesn't take away from what our kids have done all year. I think our program has continually gotten better. We had a great year. I think there's some things that we've got to work on in the off season, and hopefully we'll come back and be even better next year.
Okay. Thanks a lot for joining us, Coach.
Thank you.